Men, this video is going to be talking about what you should do when you no longer are losing weight and your photos are no longer showing any changes in body composition. Knowing what changes you can make, and there is a lot, and when to make them is crucial for you continuing to lose fat long term. Those that have just jumped on the channel, welcome. Great to have you here. My name's Paul Green. I'm a former British paratrooper and Special Forces Support Group operator. I've been fortunate enough to work in an elite performance bubble for over a decade now, and I've left that job and I'm fully online with the longevity program in which I created for men over the age of 40 from extreme sporting backgrounds. Free runners, skydivers, martial artists, mountain bikers, kayakers, and all of that jazz. Anyway, back to this video. We're going to be talking about tracking data, the importance of each data point. I'm not just going to tell you what to track and send you on your way. It's important that you understand each data point and how it fits with the overall goal. I'm not going to go too in depth. When and how to make each change is crucial. So that's what you're going to get. And basically, this is you understanding what it takes for you to become the man you want to become. Winging it, using emotions, emotional eating, changing diet every day, changing your training every day, doing what you want, doing what you feel like doing, doesn't work. You probably know that if you're a regular viewer of this channel. If that sounds like it'll be useful to you, then stick around. Just have a quick mouthful. 15 minutes tops. So data tracking, track all of it. And I say all of it, all of this. If you've got a different goal, then the data points in which you need to focus on are going to be slightly different. For example, if you have an aerobic goal or an endurance mission, you're going to be tracking your heart rate. However, for weight loss, these are the only data points in which you need to track. And a lot of men will not track data because they do not want to be held accountable. Men on this channel are open to being held accountable. It doesn't lie. The data doesn't lie. Like, your weight every single day is your weight. It's what the scales are showing your weight is. So if you've been mincing on an evening, it'll show. And there's been people on my program that I've had to kick off that are not willing to track their data. More data means better decisions. If your weight's not going down, but you are not doing this, you're not doing this, and you're not doing this, it's no wonder. So these data points need to be tracked. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to say why you should be doing it and how useful it is. But the main thing is more data means you're going to make a better decision. You're going to make a better adjustment a month down the line. Instead of just having a meltdown because the one data point in which you are tracking or the two data points which you're tracking aren't heading in the right direction. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 data points. Most men just do 2. And have a meltdown when them 2 don't head in the right direction. I'm giving you an extra 4 here in which you can adjust to continue on your weight loss mission. Makes sense. Right, daily weight. This is probably the most important one, right? Because calorie calculators and stuff like that are absolutely great. However, they're only guessing. They're only guessing your body composition. They're guessing, the past decade, the past 2 decades of your life, how you grew up and stuff like that. It's just an estimation of how many calories you should be eating in a day. So there's always going to be a little bit of like an adjustment period at the start of your training block with regards to this stuff. But one way you can stress test whether the meal plan is correct is weighing yourself every single day. And you're probably thinking, why every day when you can just do it weekly? I can just do it when I feel like doing it. Nah, you need to do it every day, because if you have every single day showing your weight has not improved, or let's say your weight has went up, there's clearly an indication that an adjustment needs to be made. Does that make sense? Rather than just one data point at the start of the week, at the end of the week, you weigh yourself. That option would result in you only getting 2 data points. So let's say your weight went down all week, and then for whatever reason it came back up a little bit. The general trend was down for most of the week, but it's went back to the normal. So you'd basically just start digging into why it went up. How was your sleep? How much salt were you eating and stuff like that. But this is the most important thing, your daily weight, especially if you're on a weight loss mission. So make sure you're doing it every single morning. As soon as you wake up, get your weight done, write it down. Hopefully you appreciate why 7 data points of weight are way more valuable than 1 or 2. Track your food intake. So the importance of this is it's crucial that you have an understanding of how much food you need to be eating to not only achieve reduction in body fat, but also achieve high performance and a decent level of recovery after your weightlifting sessions. And this doesn't mean you should calorie count and count your protein and count your fats and all the rest of it. It just means do your calorie calculator and put that into 4 meals. And then just eat them meals every day. So them meals represent your calories and your macros. So just follow the meal plan. Don't follow these boring numbers. Drive you insane trying to look at each individual gram of protein. Nah. The meals in which you eat should take this into account. Very important. And it's important that you have enough fuel to support the demands in which you put your body through. If you have a busy job in the office all day, do you need carbs for that? Maybe not. So your meal plan should represent the demands in which you place on your body. I could go further into that. Done a video on that actually. High demanding, mentally demanding jobs meal plan, and then I've got high physically demanding jobs meal plan for that as well. So just check them out on my channel. Anyway, this is another data point in which you need to track food intake, because it's a thing that we could adjust and we probably will adjust in the future. However, this is the first thing in which people get wrong. They adjust this too much and they start it too low. For example, week 1, complete beginner, doesn't have a clue about, just wants to lose weight. They will probably undercut their food intake by 1,000 calories. And you think about it, if you want to lose a significant amount of weight over the next 16 weeks, if you've undercut your food intake by 1,000 calories, how is your performance in the gym going to be? How is your sleep going to be? How is your recovery going to be? And then when you get to a point where your body's like, you know what, I'm not interested in losing weight this week, what are you going to do? You're going to literally contemplate with reducing that 1,000 calories even more by another 300 or 400. You don't have much flexibility. I've got a guy in the program there. He started last week. He's 101 kilos, and I've started him on 2,600 calories. He's now eating clean food. He's struggling to eat all the food that I've given. He's now eating clean food, and he's training like 4 times a week, and he's got a really busy job. I've started his calories high, so then I can maybe bring them down if I need to. You want to be eating as much. We're all men. We like food. You want to be eating as much as you physically can. Does that make sense? So don't be stupid and emotional with undercutting the tracking of your food intake. It's absolute amateur hour. Do you understand? Steps. So 10,000 steps seems to be the normal thing to be doing. That's about 1 hour, 30 of walking. And steps is a really powerful tool to have in your back pocket for losing weight. The reason being is when you're walking, you're not using any carbohydrates, you're not using any glucose to fuel that performance. It's fully aerobic, so there's no extra requirement. It doesn't make you hungry. If anything, it actually improves digestion, but it's done at such a low intensity that it just burns calories. And after about an hour and a half of this, probably looking at about 350 calories. So it's a useful thing. Going out and doing your steps, not just useful for fat loss, it's useful for mental clarity, focus, concentration, goal setting, and all the rest of it. But burning 350 calories at such a low intensity that has no detrimental effect on your future training sessions the next day. If anything, it probably actually promotes a little bit of recovery as well. It's important that this is prioritized as opposed to, let's say, a high intensity cardio. And like I said, it's the reason being is this has such a little negative, it has zero negative effect on your energy levels, on your future training sessions. So the recoverability, you will basically want to do as much highly recoverable cardio as possible. And another reason is if you start to creep up the intensity of these cardio methods, I would say, I'm not going to say steps is cardio, by the way, but the more intense the cardio is, the more requirement for carbohydrates. When you're on a calorie deficit for an extended period of time, you don't want your body craving carbohydrates. And when you do steps, instead of a 30-minute jog at 80%, it's not going to make you hungry because it's such a low intensity. The downside to this is it takes a considerable amount of time out of your day. But just because it's an hour and a half of walking doesn't mean it has to be an hour and a half in one block. It could be 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes midday, 30 minutes on the night. You can split it up. It doesn't matter. It's just the collective. And the sole purpose of this is to burn calories. And if you're burning an extra 350, 400 calories with very little negative effect on the body, then why you're not doing it? And it's something, 10,000 steps, like I said, an hour and a half of walking, roughly, of fairly quick walking. So hopefully you understand the importance of that and why you should do it and why you should do it from tomorrow onwards. Next one, additional cardio. Start low. And what I mean by additional cardio, it doesn't have to be high intensity for that reason that I've just said on the steps. If you start doing high intensity cardio because you think high intensity cardio is going to make you lose more fat, it's going to probably burn more calories, but it's also going to fatigue you more for your next training session. And it's also going to basically tell your brain that you need a full replenishment of carbohydrates, protein, whatever. You need a massive meal in your body to fuel that. When you've got low intensity, the need for them, that extra food intake is less. So you should always favour low intensity cardio variants. And another thing you should be very considerate of is non-impact versus high impact as well. Now, there's been people on the longevity program that have had issues with their ankles and issues with their feet. I would sometimes layer in a high impact variation just to strengthen their ankle, strengthen their feet. However, if you're just the average geezer, right, it's important that you favour non-impact. Again, you want this cardio variation to be as easy on the body and on the joints as possible, so then when you're in the gym or when you're doing rock climbing, you can just absolutely send it. This is just calories again. It's just a little bit extra than steps. Do you know what I mean? And how you would bring this in is you'd start the week on like 20 minutes or something like that. So hopefully you appreciate that. And workouts. This is a big one that, again, unless you're a little nerd, not many people actually do. And it blows my mind that people are just go in and do the same exercises and just guess. Like, if I was to ask you what weight you did on a certain lift 2 months ago, you'd probably look at me and laugh. Like, how am I supposed to know that? This is how you're supposed to know that. You're supposed to track your workout. If you want to get stronger, if you want to get more physically robust and increase the amount of muscle size you have, then why are you not tracking your workouts? It blows my mind, but it's one of the most effective things. And if you don't do this, and you just want to lose weight, and you're not really bothered about what you lift in the gym, it's like, it's just mental, because everybody can lose weight pretty easily. But it's important that you actually visualize what your body will look like when your weight comes down. And if you're not tracking this, you're not holding yourself accountable with regards to your workouts, you're not going to gain strength, you're not going to gain muscle. Or you might do a little bit. But people that don't do this, right, they're the same strength now as they were. They're a similar strength level now as they were 10 years ago. Every single person that came to me on the longevity program 10 years ago, they're lifting the same, they're doing the same on squats, they're doing the same on chest press. They just stay the same strength. And it's another data point. And then when you're heading in, if you are gaining strength week in, week out, if you're adding an extra rep on, if you're increasing the weight, it's a great feeling. You know what I mean? It's a great feeling. And what that means is you are gaining strength and you are gaining muscle. Last one. Weekly photos. Now, I know there's a lot of ways in which you can measure body fat in the world, but weekly photos just work really well because they touch on body fat and they touch on muscle gain as well. Sometimes you may not lose weight, but the photos show a massive flattening of your stomach, or you may not lose weight, so that you need something else other than the weight on the scales to bring it to life. Because if you're training weights and you're out mountain biking, there may be differences in your body composition, and it's important to hold yourself accountable with regards to that. There's been times where I haven't made a change to somebody's output and input because their weekly photos actually improved, even though their scale did not improve. Right, so like I talked about earlier on, it's important that you know the more data points you have, the easier it is to make sensible adjustments later on down the line. You have to be prepared for the point in your life in which you no longer get the results in which you set out to achieve. And I call this tightening the screws, right? But the problem with most people is they make this decision that this is the path that they're going to take for the next 12, 14, 20, 24 weeks for whatever reason, and they tighten about 10 screws at the same time for the first week. Oh my God, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to do keto, I'm going to train all this time, 5 times a week, 6 times a week, I'm going to run, I'm going to do yoga, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to sleep 10 hours a night, I'm going to read before bed. All of this stuff goes boom! And then you're in fight or flight from the very first week. So like I said, keep the data points, what I've said, these ones, specific to your goals. All the other shit is bollocks, like getting up an extra hour early to meditate. No, just have the extra time in bed. Recovery, like, it's overrated. Meditation is overrated. Just sleep more and you're going to be more productive on the morning. You're going to have a better training session because you've slept, you've recovered better. There's going to be hairs in the comments, hopefully. Right. This is not always going to happen, but it should happen most of the time. You should adjust one data point at a time when things go wrong. for the reasons I've just said. If you improve 10 or if you improve 5 at the same time, you're going to have a meltdown. Be humble with this process. Like I said, when things aren't going your way, you adjust too many things, you're just going to go, you know what, I'm sacking this. And then you go back to your other weight, whatever weight you were before, and it just could have been a bit more sensible. So, for example, I've got an example of one of the geezers on the longevity program on the next slide. Hopefully, appreciate why you don't improve. You try your hardest. Sometimes it might be 2, but never ever no longer than 2. And on your first week, of course, there's going to be about 5 or 6 things that you add in. But when things go wrong, one at a time. So the foundation of this, when he first started, he was on 3 times a week in the gym. He was on 10,000 steps, 0 minutes cardio on week 1 to week 6, and all I did was reduce his maintenance calories by 10%. Very high food intake to start things off. The reason is I just want the transition from his normal lunatic life onto a decent diet to be as smooth as possible. And I also want the flexibility to reduce the calories further later on down the line if I need to. 10,000 steps, like I said earlier on, 350 to 400 calories burned. It's just a no-brainer. And I start him on 0 cardio daily because, again, I don't need to put him on any cardio at the start because I need to see how his body adjusts to the longevity program, the longevity meal plan, and the stuff that I've already put in place. So the first week, there's about 4 or 5 things that are going to change with his life. However, I want to have some in my back pocket when things don't go the way we want them to. So for 6 weeks, I ran the same thing, and he continued to lose weight every single week. Photos were looking better. And then it got to week 5, and week 6, they didn't change. After 2 consecutive weeks of the same weight, I make a change. And the first change I made, which is different to the first change you would make, instead of reducing food, I do the other things first. I increase output. So I start small, 20 minutes of cardio daily. Make sure it's low intensity, preferably a low impact session. Swimming, on a bike, on a cross trainer. High intensity means you get hungry. You do not want to get hungry. So I added 20 minutes of cardio from week 6 till week 9. Then he plateaued again on his weight and his photos. All I did at that point, still didn't reduce food. I just added an extra 2,500 steps. So now he's on an hour 45 of steps per day. It's a good job he's got a dog. Then he plateaued on week 12. Then I reduced the calories by 10%. It's a tiny amount. And then I ran that for another couple of weeks. Then I doubled his cardio from 20 minutes to 40 minutes a day. Till week 19. Week 19 to week 22, I added steps, and then for the last 2 weeks, I reduced his calories because the end was near of this training block. Reduced the calories by 20%. Does that make sense? So I'm changing the steps, I'm changing the cardio, then I reduce food. I want to keep food as high as possible because without the most amount of food possible, you're going to train like shit in the gym. And when you do eventually get down to your goal weight or your goal body fat, you're going to look a bag of shit because you can't train and you can't recover from these amazing training sessions. That's the way I do it. So to wrap it all up, the more data, the better decisions. If you're not tracking much data, you just narrow the things that you can adjust in the future when things don't go your way. The data doesn't lie. Clearly, step on the scales. It's clear as day whether you are making the correct decisions. One data point at a time, maximum of 2, and you'll barely notice the changes. And people are afraid of data because it holds them accountable. But these are the changes necessary in order for you to become the man that you want to become. Gentlemen, that is it from me. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. See you tomorrow.